Today's podcast is brought to you by me and me alone. I don't need you, and I don't need anybody.
Now with Joe DeRosa.
Welcome to the show. I'm Joe DeRosa, the last man on earth to start a podcast. Now, folks, I'm a big fan of traditional talk radio, honest discussion about interesting subject matter. So what I want to do on this podcast is each episode, I'm going to have one guest come in for 1 hour to discuss one topic with me. And I have the guests pick the topic from a list of topics that I created as to assure our discussion is about something we're both invested in. So, that being said, today's guest picked the topic of marriage and everything that goes along with it. I will now indulge in the grotesque act of quoting the book I co-wrote. Disgusting. Here I read to you from Cheat, A Man's Guide to Infidelity, which is available online and in bookstores everywhere, or at least in the ones that agreed to carry such a piece of questionable literature. Anyway, listen to this. Where did marriage come from? We researched it, but were unable to pinpoint an exact origin. All we found was that there are a bunch of legends about how it started. That's right, legends, as in Sleepy Hollow, or of the Lone Ranger, or of fucking Zelda, for Christ's sake. Legends are fantastic stories full of superhuman characters, swashbuckling adventure, and most of all, tons of shit that isn't goddamn possible in real life. That's why they're fucking legends and not the boring-ass stories you had to read in your 6th grade American history book. Here's the point. The practice of marriage, despite predating even the most primitive of modern societies, is still the primary way we humans organize ourselves. 3/4 of the world's population, at some point in their lives, whether it works out or not, get hitched. So, then, if it's so outdated, complicated, very likely to fail, and an all-out assault on your body's physical wants and needs, why do so many of us get married? Especially in this ever-evolving, progressively sexual climate we live in. Will marriage have to eventually evolve to us, or will we to it? Or will it finally just fade away? So many questions, all of which will be discussed with my guest today. He's made a name for himself on the New York comedy scene through his widely celebrated video projects as the co-host of the immensely popular Hot Tub Variety Hour, which he co-created with Kristen Shaw, and, of course, through performing stand-up comedy. He recently hosted the cult hit game show Bunk for IFC, relocated to Los Angeles, and released his debut comedy album, How Do I Land?, which made several of 2013's best of lists. Please welcome my pal, Kurt Braunohler.
Hello.
How are you, buddy?
Hey, Joe.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Kurt.
I love that intro.
You liked it?
It was tight.
It was
tight. It was professional.
Yeah.
It was well researched.
Yes.
There was a quote from a book.
Yes.
I feel like I already fucking learned something.
I felt like I learned something.
Yeah, good.
I was reading my own book and going, I don't remember when we wrote that. I don't know. That sounds smart, though.
How long ago did that book come out?
This book came out about 2 years ago.
Nice.
Maybe even 3 years ago at this point.
Did you enjoy the process of writing a book?
Not particularly. I don't think any of us did. It was very tedious.
Yeah, it just seems like God, what a gargantuan task. And then once it's done, it's like there's not even a premiere for it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's not like something to be like, hey, everybody, come look at this thing I made. It's like, oh, here, spend 12 hours reading this.
Yeah, exactly.
And then get back to me and tell me what you think about it.
Yeah. And not to shittily tie this into our theme today,
Yeah.
but once you start writing the book, it is a committed relationship.
Oh, yeah.
That you can't get out of without some creating some sort of major headache or catastrophic situation or whatever. So I think we all kind of felt that as 3 stand-up comedians, Bill Burr, Robert Kelly, and myself, committing to writing a book. It sounds great. How romantic. We'll write a book and it'll be lovely.
We'll go to the woods, we'll get a cabin, we'll bang it out in like a week.
Yeah, and then you get in and you're like, oh, this is hard. There's
a lot of fucking just drudgery and plowing through.
Yeah, and which, by the way, is how I look at most monogamous relationships. You're a man. Here's my question for you. The first question. You're a man who, as long as I've known you, has been a pretty committed guy, and I've met your significant fuck me.
Hey, you know what? I want you to keep these in there.
Significant other.
We can't edit this stuff out. You gotta keep this natural. This is the way people talk.
This is the way.
Joe.
This is real.
Yeah.
This is what you. See, that's
This is the nitty fucking gritty.
yeah, and that's a guy. This is the difference between you and me. Committed man versus single man. The committed man says, "Do you take the lumps and all?" The single man says, "Edit it, make me look good." I don't want him to see the real me. You're is it fiance or just girlfriend right now?
Just girlfriend.
Just
right
girlfriend.
now.
She's lovely.
Thank you.
I spent some time with her.
I know you guys got to do this awesome like house crawl.
Yes.
Around the neighborhood, everybody having a drink at everybody's house.
Yes.
And I missed it because I was in fucking Miami.
Yeah, you were in Miami.
ruins everything.
Right. Kurt.
And here's a tip. I don't know if you've ever done comedy in Miami. Don't. Fucking don't do comedy in Miami. They're not interested. They want to look at tits that are outside and fucking ride around in Lamborghinis that are right outside.
Yeah.
It's so great outside on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
They don't want to look at your comedy.
I've performed there before. I know the deal.
Murderous.
I've
It's
performed
so bad.
in South Beach, which is
Yes.
that is the hub of Miami.
We were-
that is where it all.
Oh yeah.
operates
No, we
out
were
of.
staying in South Beach and then we were playing at this. Actually, we were playing at this very cool place. Probably maybe the coolest place in Miami. It was like this underground kind of like movie theater, and it was awesome. And it was in like the quote unquote Williamsburg of Miami. But still,
Well,
it was like people had never even heard of comedy or been to a comedy show. It was.
yeah, it's terrible.
It was like training people to be adult humans.
It's terrible. And just a quick disclaimer for the Miami listeners out there. There's nothing wrong with your city or many of the people in it.
Yes.
It's just for some reason the people that come to the comedy shows don't
Right.
seem at all interested.
In being there.
And that's not all the people, but
Not all the
a lot
people.
of the people that come to the comedy shows just don't seem
more
interested.
than other cities, the majority of people are not interested.
I'll tell you the other thing I really, truly don't enjoy about when I spend time in Miami is it's a type of woman that I cannot pursue. I can't. And I say that to people and they go, "You have low self-esteem." Like, no, it's not low self-esteem. I just know what will have sex with me and what won't. And Miami women won't. I don't have the car. I don't have the look. I don't have the muscles.
Yeah.
There's a thing they want.
Muscles, and it is the car too. The amount of land. I've never been to a city where I found out just by walking down the street that you could rent a Lamborghini. No other city where it's just on the sidewalk. Here's a Lamborghini for rent. There's no other city where you just rent a Lamborghini off a sidewalk.
Yeah, exactly. It's very indicative of what's going on down there. Now? Here's the thing: when as a comic that travels, as I said, your significant other is very lovely.
Yes.
We conversed quite a bit during this Christmas drinking event we had here in the neighborhood that Kurt and I live in. A bunch of us comics got together. In fact, Kristen Shaw was there too.
Yeah.
We had a great time. And I talked to your girlfriend for quite a while. I say this respectfully. I didn't know she was your girlfriend when I first met her.
Okay.
So I was just talking to her for a half hour, and I was like, "This girl is great. Who is she? Where did she come from? I'm going to ask for her number." And then as I was thinking that, she went, "Oh, do you know Kurt?" And I go, "Of course." And she goes, "I'm Kurt's girlfriend. I live with him." And I was like, "Oh." And never in one moment was I so happy for a friend and jealous of him at the same time. And I say that respectfully.
I think that's actually totally fine, because I think I had the exact same experience, I think, with Emily Gordon, Kumail's wife. I remember years and years ago, before I knew that they were like, this is when they were just dating.
Yeah.
I was like, who is this amazing woman? And then Kumail came over and was like, this is my girlfriend. I was like, there it goes. The same thing. It's like, I'm so happy. Very jealous.
Yeah, great as one tear streams down your cheek. What is the secret to, because listen, for the intents and purposes of this discussion, you're the same thing as married. You live with the woman. You're in a committed relationship. It's a monogamous relationship.
I think there's a difference, because I'm thinking about proposing. Right? I'm thinking about it right
Does she know that, or are you announcing it here on the podcast?
No, she knows that.
Okay.
Because I, almost blackout level drunk called her one night. I was like, I think we should get married. Like when I was in New York and she was in LA. And then I was like, but I don't want to get really married. I want to have a wedding. Well, let's just tell everybody we're married, but we don't sign any papers.
Right.
So that's what I called her and told her. And she was like, oh, this is good news? It was confusing for her.
Yeah, when
And
you're
so this is
you're in
my-
the same mental state as I might go to Jack in the Box right now. These are the decisions you're entertaining
Exactly.
at this level of drunk. All
And
right.
so I have a lot of feelings about it, and the fact, like, because I think I was just talking with my good friend, like my oldest friend today about this, because he's like, "Hey, are you thinking about proposing?" I was like, "Yeah," and he's like, "Well, let's talk about it." And then I like brought up this idea of like maybe like having a wedding, calling her my wife and everything, but then not actually getting married in the law's eyes, because that's what my friends did, and they ended up breaking up, getting a divorce, but there was no horror
So
to their breakup.
let me just ask a question
Yes.
really quick before you go on with that story. When you say you're not getting married in the law's eyes, but calling you mean literally just I give her a ring in the privacy of our own home, and I say you're my wife now and I'm your husband now, and that's it.
No.
Like no
Full wedding.
full wedding, but no legal person there saying it's official. There's a certificate,
We have
whatever.
a dude. We have an officiant. He says, "Now you are. I name you man and wife." We kiss in front of everybody, and then later at the reception, where the guy comes up with a little piece of paper, and you're just supposed to sign that piece of paper and then mail it off to the state. We simply don't sign that piece of paper.
Well, why? Let me ask you this then. Why? You can still have the ceremony and everything.
Yeah.
Why even have an officiant there? Why not just get a good dear friend to just announce it
Well,
to
that would be
everybody?
officiant. That would be the officiant. See, I'm an
But he has-
officiant. I'm an officiant. I've married 7 of my friends.
I've married 2 of my friends
Yeah.
as well.
So that it would be a friend who,
But you're still. I had to get the certificate.
Oh, yeah.
I married them in Kansas, and I got the certificate online
sure,
and
but
everything.
you do that after the wedding.
But it's official, is my point.
What is?
That's legal. They have a legally recognized marriage because I was the official.
But only because you signed it. And they signed it. That the legal document is what makes them married.
Sure.
You saying they're married there's nothing.
Well, that's what I'm saying to you. You're saying
Yeah.
you don't want to sign the legal
Right.
document, so why not just get not an officiant, just a friend?
Yeah, that's what I would do.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
then there's not even the part of sign this.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm following. I thought you were saying you want to get a legal guy to come in, do the whole thing, and then go, "We're not signing that, by the way."
I just want to punk a dude. I just want to punk a marriage guy is what I'm saying.
Sorry to-
kind of a prank situation in my reception.
Yeah, tough shit, Deacon.
No, I was saying the difference between my wedding and a normal wedding.
I
would be
got okay. Now I got
that
you.
one moment.
I follow you now. All right, so your friends. Back to your friends'
Yeah.
marriage. Go ahead.
And so they got, because I married them, and then at the end of the night, I was like, we're going to sign the papers, and they're just like, oh, yeah, well, we'll get to it. And then they just never got to it, and then in the morning, like, they were leaving, and I was like, hey, guys, still haven't signed the papers. Like, oh, we'll do it when we get back. And then we got back, and then I kept, like, followed up, and then they just, and then I was like, oh, and they're like, don't tell anybody, we're not really married.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I won't. And then, shit went bad, which it does for a lot of marriages. And they were able to end it without a year of legal battle between the two of them where they had to sue each other. Because in New York State, there's no fault divorce. You have to sue. It has to be someone's fault. You have
Gotta love
to
it.
sue
Yeah.
someone in order to get out of it.
Right.
And I think that makes it almost impossible to have, like, because I am good friends with a lot of my ex-girlfriends.
Right.
You know what I mean? If they had had to sue me or I had to sue them to get out of that situation, we would hate each other.
Well, it's such an interesting concept because it's clearly this exploitation of the institution, right?
Yeah.
They're saying to you essentially, we've got you by the balls. Nobody's getting out of this unless we make some money here.
Right.
So, which sucks. I love this concept that you're talking about. This crazy concept of we're just going to say we're married.
Yeah.
I love it. And I would even, if I did it that way, I would even go a step further than your friends and go, yeah, tell anybody. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And if anybody question it, fuck you. I'm a grown up.
I know, but
I'm saying this is my wife because I'm a grown up and that's what I say.
and also it's like the legal concept. I don't understand why there's so much weight put on it. I understand that you get some tax breaks and everything, but what makes a relationship work is two people's commitment to it. A piece of paper doesn't hold two people together.
Right.
You know,
Well,
it's people's desire to be together is what holds people together.
I think the emphasis, the importance that people put on this piece of paper, I think that's nothing more than just the result of the societal pressure of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think particularly for women, and I'm not saying that to blame women. I'm just saying I think that's what happens. I think women in this country particularly, they get brought up in this climate of this is what's supposed to happen to a girl.
Right.
It's the guy riding in on the horse. It's the beautiful ring. It's the biggest day of your life, and the church and all your friends and the flowers and the celebration. And that paper means a commitment to you.
Right.
He doesn't love you unless you get that paper. It's almost like the ring thing. Unless the ring's a certain size, he doesn't really care. Did he spend a month of his salary? And I love that whole thing because it's
supposed
like
to be 2 months.
2 months of your salary. Which,
and they say that on the TV commercials.
Right, exactly.
They say it should be 2 months, which is bonkers to me. That you would say that.
Well, and here's the thing, too. So let me get this straight. If I am, a power agent in Hollywood, and I spend 2 months of my salary on you because I love you, clearly that salary is going to get you quite a rock.
Yeah.
And that means I love you that much. But if I work at 7-Eleven, 2 months of my salary will get you, maybe like a gold band with a little tiny rock on it. Does that mean I love you less? I love that it's like literally defined by, it's not the gift itself.
Yeah.
It's not saying this is what this means to the person and this is what it might mean to you and blah, 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 because you would love this and appreciate it. It's literally, you are worth what you make.
Yeah.
And that's it. And think about how degrading that is to the guy. So what? I'm worth less because I literally make less?
I know.
It's gross.
It's insane. And also it's like the whole, like the wedding, industry in the United States, I think is probably one of the sicker, disgusting parts of the economy. And the fact that you can get a photographer to come and photograph some stuff for pretty cheap.
Yeah.
But then you call it a wedding and it's prices are 4 times as much for everything. Yeah. Anything. You want a cake? Go buy a cake. Is it a wedding cake? It's going to be used in a wedding? 10 times as much. We're just like these people.
Which, by the way, the shittiest cake.
The
shittiest cake.
Why do I want to have that? Whatever that shit is that makes it hard. Why do I want to have that on the outside? You know what I'm talking about? Where it's just then we made this delicious cake. We filled it with the most expensive ingredients. And then essentially we poured plastic all over
marzipan,
it so that it would stand up.
It's marzipan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is it's where every Cake Boss cake starts.
Yeah.
They go, we want to make a delicious cake in the shape of an airplane. Okay. First we take some marzipan. You lost me.
Yeah, there you go.
You lost me.
Marzipan's disgusting.
How do we make the Batmobile cake? First we take some marzipan. All right. Forget the marzipan. How are we going to make the cake at Yankee Stadium? Marzipan. Stop saying marzipan.
But all the way on the inside, there's some cake stuff. It's in there. You got to get to it though. And by the time you get to it, it's going to be pretty dried out. It's going to be dusty, But
yeah, it's really I'll take the celebratory rack of lamb. What's that made out of? It's entirely bone. If you can
crack, it stands up really high.
It stands up real high. And if you can crack through that bone, there is just a little bit of marrow.
Lick it. You can lick it off. Yeah.
Yeah. It sucks. It's the worst cake on earth. And I'm just finish what you're saying. I apologize.
I was going off about the wedding industry. I don't give a shit really that much about the wedding industry. I don't want to talk about that, but I do want to talk about the idea of the idea of commitment and does this institution support a successful commitment? Does it? That's the thing I'm challenging right now.
Well, that's why I brought up the point in the intro about will marriage eventually evolve to us? And I think that's essentially what we're talking about here in general. Let's go back to what marriage used to mean.
Right.
Marriage was literally a financial institution. That's why it was created.
Yeah.
It was created for a society that said men can do things, women can't. Women need to be taken care of because they are the ones that make our babies. So here is what we're going to do. You're going to marry that woman. You'll provide for her and the baby she gives you. And
in return, her father is going to give you some of his land.
Yeah, yeah.
And now our families are kind of in business together.
Exactly.
There's a way for our families to be in business.
Exactly. And then the guy went, wait a minute. I got to commit to the one. That's crazy. And they go, you'll be dead in 10 years. Don't worry about it. It's not going to be that hard. You know what I mean? And it made sense. Okay. Oh, let's make the best out of this 10 years. Let's give it a go. That was it. That was it. And now, everything progresses. We live a lot longer. Women clearly have many, many more rights. They have equal rights now than they did when all this was invented. And in the current culture that we live in, we're still following these archaic rules.
I know, but I mean, like, but think about it. It's like, so it doesn't last for no reason. It lasts because there's a primal thing in humans that want this. And the question is this the right is this the right feeding of these urges?
No.
Is this legal? I know you don't think so. Neither of us. There's no con on this discussion. Do you know what I mean? Right? I mean, like, you and I are just like, it's fucked. You know, we just turn it off. It is like marriage. It's fucked. That's the whole thing.
I forgot this was my podcast for a minute. You were so convincing, and you're really laying it down. I was like, Kurt's interviewing me. I need to ask him this. Answer the question. No, I think, I think if the rules, I guess that's what my point was. If the rules could change, yes, it could feed the urge.
Here, I have an idea. Let me throw this out to you.
Right.
What if you get married legally, everything, then
mm-hmm.
your marriage is a contract that has a length of 7 years. At the end of 7 years, you both have to come together, sit down at a table, and say, are we interested in continuing being married for another 7 years? If we are, we just immediately just go right back into it. We sign a contract together. If not, we can just simply walk away.
I love that you brought this up because I heard you talk about this on This American Life.
Yeah.
And I really thought that was an interesting concept. And I also it reminded me a little bit of that Curb Your Enthusiasm story arc in like the 4th season,
mm-hmm.
when the season where he did The Producers on Broadway.
Okay.
Where there was the thing with him and his wife where they showed when they first got engaged, and she said, if you can make it to 10 years with me, I'll let you have sex with one other person. And I'll give you like a week to do it or whatever. And it's obviously not the same thing.
Right.
But I like this idea of, excuse me, all of us as men and women getting to a mature enough place with who we are mentally, physically, and in the cultural sense, saying, okay, just grow up, for lack of a better way of putting it. Let's just grow up. We'll do this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that we're putting a time limit on it doesn't mean I love you any less. That's me looking out for you too.
But it's almost not. You know? I don't even see it as a time limit. I see it as an opportunity,
right,
to really reinvest. You know, because it's like if you're forced to reinvest in something, all of a sudden it's like it's more palpable again.
I totally agree with that. But I think when you bring up the concept of time. And look, I think this goes for men and women. When the other person brings up the concept of time, it starts you down that path of, well, why are you even thinking about time? Why is that even a thing in your head?
That's the thing.
It's so crazy. Think about how much you changed. This is another reason.
In 7 years.
In 7 years. Think about your 20s, just for example. The 20s, year 20 to year 30 to me, so far, has been the most significant decade of my life, only because of the exponential growth that occurred throughout it.
Yeah.
Every 2 years, I was literally a different person.
7 years ago, I hadn't really done stand-up.
Right?
Yeah.
Nuts.
Crazy.
It's really crazy.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. 7 years from now, you could be Michael Bay for all you know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or you could be homeless.
Or I could just be living in Michael Bay's house.
Or living in Michael Bay's house.
I have murdered Michael Bay.
Yeah. Or
and I'm just living as him, fooling everyone. Continually making Transformer movies.
Michael Bay's movies have gotten weird since he went into that Howard Hughes phase. Has anybody seen him? He pees in jars in there. You're just in there living it up, having the best life.
The best time.
Everybody thinks you're have long hair and a beard. Yeah, but I mean, it's God. God knows where you could be 7 years from now, and where the other person could be 7 years from now. I think that's a great idea.
I mean, and also, and I think when people question me on this, I'm like, why do you think this way? And I do come from a unique background. In fact, my dad has been married. He's on his 4th wife.
Wow.
So divorce for me growing up was just a constant thing. Like every few years, my dad would get divorced, Mm-hmm. And I have 8 brothers and sisters from 4 different women. So for me, divorce is like pretty common. Like I've seen it a lot. And so I don't have that experience of two people who have been with each other forever. But I can say the people who have been together with each other for 35, 40 years, don't see many of them that are like, we are so psyched about each other. Most of them seem, from the outside, and you can never judge a relationship from the outside, I honestly believe. But from the outside, they seem fucking miserable.
Right. Well, there's a great Lewis Black joke. I by chance heard it last night on Sirius Radio when I was driving, where he says, my parents are 90 years old. They've been together for however many years they've been together, 60 years or whatever it is. And he goes, and the secret to the success of their marriage is that neither have ever heard another word the other one said.
Yeah.
And as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh my God, that's funny, but that's so profound. That's so true.
Yeah.
Because most of the couples I know that get anywhere near that far in, and by anywhere near, I mean crossing the 35 or 40 year mark, most of them, it becomes just sort of like this roommate situation.
Yeah, the roommate support system.
Yeah, it's just like we have our thing. She does this, he does that. And which had the same inflection. That was a Jinx inflection.
Yeah, it was.
It was weird. Buy me Coke as I drink the Coke. It becomes, like you said, it's a mutual support system. We have our duties in the house here, and we just live together. And I also, here's the other thing, too, that I think this is the success of a successful long marriage. I think when you cross, most people, when you cross a certain age, you just go, I don't care about fucking anymore at all.
Yeah.
I don't care if I never have sex again. I don't care if I ever get aroused ever again. I just don't care. And think about how easy a monogamous relationship would be if that was off the table.
I honestly wish that I had, because I have been in so many long-term monogamous relationships that I just thought about this right before we started this podcast. I wish I hadn't been in one in college. Because I remember this one specific night, because I just posted a photo of it for quote unquote Throwback Thursday, where we had this house in Baltimore. This big house, 5 guys lived in it.
Yeah.
All of us very dirt bags, essentially.
Right.
Really into punk rock, lived like animals, essentially.
I did that same thing. It's great.
Yeah. And it wasn't a frat or anything. We were just, 5 guys living together. And
we were just 5 guys that chose to live this way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember one night, it was, we knew we had to move out soon. And it was, I guess there was this primal kind of excitement about leaving college and leaving Baltimore, and also a fear too, I think.
Sure.
And I remember we were just getting drunk, and then I just took a plate out of because everyone had brought all of their own plates, and so we had 400 plates for some reason. I just took a plate out, and I was just drinking, and then I just smashed it on the radiator, and everybody just looked up, and they're like, "Are we gonna fucking?" And then just somebody else grabbed the plate, and then just smashed it, and then we started to destroy everything that we had in the house. And a complete nihilistic moment.
Right.
There was nothing positive about it other than just listening to everything break.
Yeah.
And I left because my girlfriend kind of was like, we have to spend time together tonight. And I had to leave, and I really didn't want to. And this happened all the time, where I really just wanted to hang out and get wasted with these dudes and do whatever they would do. My girlfriend wanted me to come over, and so I had to come over. And when I came back in the morning, I tried to open the back door, and I couldn't open the back door because there was 5 inches of broken pottery and TVs and phones in the kitchen up to so the door wouldn't open.
Awesome.
And then also we were showing the house was being shown to people that day. So I came back at noon, found it, and I was like, oh my God, panic. But everything in the house had been completely destroyed. And I missed all of that.
Right.
And I do feel like, on some level, if I had been there for this purging, this emotional and physical destruction of my home,
right,
that I wouldn't have gone so crazy later in life the way I did and have done with everything that I've done.
Well,
you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, but I can speak to the literally exact other side of that.
Okay, great.
I lived the exact same way in college.
Yes.
We broke things all the time.
All the time.
We
Just
threw
monsters. Just shitty monsters.
Yeah, we had a balcony. We were on the second floor balcony of this place, and there was an open courtyard. And in the open courtyard, for some reason, were these cement slabs. It almost looked like they had once been maybe like entrances, like those ground entrances into the basement, like the storm door entrances.
Yeah.
And maybe they filled them in.
Okay.
But there were big cement slabs down in the courtyard in the grass. So we would throw anything we could think of off to watch it fall and shatter. My next door neighbors, used to, I swear to God, wrestle on broken glass in their living room. Behind their TV was a pyramid of beer cans, and I don't mean that they stacked up. I mean a pile of crushed beer cans that was so big it just formed into a pyramid because they would just throw the cans behind there. What else? I just want to keep describing how crazy all this was. Like my downstairs neighbor was a guy named Keyser who worked at Kraft Cheese, like the factory. He didn't even go to school there. He just liked hanging out with us, and he had a. And his name was
a Kraft Cheese guy hanging out all the time.
And his name was Keyser, and he was great.
Keyser.
I remember he had a punctured lung once, and he came home from the hospital, and I go, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I go, "What did it feel like?" He goes, "It hurt real bad, but I thought I was just hungover, man." Turns out my lung was punctured.
Holy shit, Keyser! Holy shit!
The best thing Keyser would do is he would take his sectional couch apart and form it like it was bus seats. When he was drunk, you'd walk into his apartment. He'd be sitting in there by himself in the front seat, and he'd go, "Come on, ride the Keyser bus." And you'd sit in there, and he'd pretend to drive you around. It's like crazy. Awesome. Crazy.
Yeah.
Like it was literally like Animal House. It was awesome. And here's the point of all this.
Yes.
When I dated girls in college, and they said, "We need to spend time together," I'd say, "No, I'm having too much fun breaking things.
Right.
Why don't you come over here where we're breaking things and my buddies are dueling with BB guns right now? Don't you want to be a part of that? Isn't that romantic?"
Fun. Yeah.
It's fun. Fun is romance, right?
Yeah.
And that led to never having a serious relationship in college. I had one at the very, very tail end that was an open relationship.
Oh, boy. You tried that out at an early age.
I tried that at a very early age, and I was fine with it until she didn't come home one night and hooked up with another guy, and it would like devastated me. And I was
that the first time that she did it?
You know what? I think only she did it.
Oh, no.
It wasn't that I didn't try. I just had
no luck.
Such little game. I wasn't good with like the like singles random hookup game in college.
Right.
I was okay if I pursued a girl and I dated her, but I didn't know how to like pick up until I did comedy. You know, basically.
I mean, comedy is like, I wouldn't know how to do it just as a normal human either.
Yeah, it's tough because, you know.
It's hard. I mean, as comedians, it's not the same thing at all.
Yeah, you need somebody to go, "You're amazing."
Yeah, just right. You haven't even talked to them personally. You have not talked to them. And they come up and just like, "This guy's pretty great.
You're so great. You're right. I am great."
You're right, I am.
10 minutes.
Do you want to get out of here?
Yeah. Thank you for being intellectually enlightened enough to appreciate my 10-minute KFC bit. You get me.
Oh man,
I mean, like you.
Yeah, man, you get you like that 7-minute brunch bit, right?
So I did the exact opposite of what you did in college.
Yeah.
I went the other way.
So that, but also,
said I want to keep having fun. But here's the thing: it
didn't satiate it.
Well, here's what happened, and I see it with the both of us. All it did was set you off on a certain path, and that's the path you kind of stay on.
Right.
You stayed on your path, even though you look back and you say, "I should have purged. Fuck monogamy. I should have purged."
Right.
You still kept going with monogamy.
Oh yeah.
And I look back and go, I was an idiot. Why did I choose fun over like meaningful time with a woman? Well, now I'm 36 and I'm still single.
Yeah.
And I still have such a hard time walking away from the fun. It's easier for me now than it ever was, but I still have a tremendously tough time. If you and Pete Holmes and, you know, and Orrin and all my buddies that live in this neighborhood called me up and said, "Dude, we're at a bar and we're throwing them back."
Yeah.
And a girl I was dating was like, "Well, why don't you come over to my place? Because, you know, why don't we sit and we'll watch this thing, Downton Abbey, whatever." it would be so hard for me not to go hang out with you guys.
I know.
So hard. Like, it's just that thing, you know?
It is that thing. And that's I think that doesn't go away ever. But, you know,
But you handle it. You are able to clearly choose the other thing, though.
I mean, but also, I don't think anymore. I don't anymore have that choice. I don't have the choice between go hang out with the bros and have a blast or hang out with the girlfriend. If I go hang out with the bros and have a blast, the girlfriend comes along, or like we're there because they're all equal friends, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And she can drink, you know, just as much as I can. Well, no, she can't, but, and when she does, it goes horribly wrong. But
I gotta say, I drank with her all day that day of the neighborhood Christmas thing. She handled her alcohol.
She can handle it pretty good,
man, which is awesome.
She can hold it pretty good.
That's such an attractive quality to me when I meet a girl that can do that. When I meet a girl that's like, pull up a fucking stool, we're gonna throw back some booze right now. Like I'm like, oh, you're awesome. That's great.
I think with her, it tricks. See, the thing is, I'm just such a big thing that if she matches me drink for drink, by the time I'm just getting like a little buzz, she's like in blackout land. So like that's you know what I mean? So I always have to remind her that every time I have a drink, you don't need to have a drink. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because otherwise, so then we can make it through the whole night together.
Right.
And not get into a fight about where are the keys, which has been a fight on the streets of New York where she just sat down on the ground and went, you know what? I got the fucking keys to the apartment, so you can fucking go wherever you want because I got them right here. And I was like, oh no, we're at this point. Okay, I'm so sorry about whatever. I don't even know what I said. I'm so sorry.
I love how your approach to drinking with your girlfriend is like when your dad takes you out for a steak. And he's like, now you order from the kids one. They just did that on Marin where like he has like the fantasy of taking the kid out and the kid's like, I want the adult menu steak. And he's like, you can't finish the adult menu steak. Order off the kids menu. And you do that with booze. Don't.
But also, that's actually, no, the amount that I, like the amount that I was drinking, because I just like stopped for this 2-month thing. I'm like taking drinking off for 2 months, right? To do this thing, exercise, blah, 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 get in shape, right? But one of the things I'm looking forward to after this 2 months is over is not having it take like 8 drinks for me to get drunk.
Oh, I hate to burst your bubble, Kurt, but I've gone on these breaks too. And that tolerance builds right back up again. The first 2 drunk nights out, you're like, man, I'm really feeling it after 2 drinks. And you do the whole like, you know, I just don't really like getting drunk anymore. That doesn't feel good. And then the 3rd time, you're like, what are we doing here? Shots! What are we doing?
This is so fucking boring. Come on, I want to be drooling.
So let's get back to the theme here of marriage and relationships. Could you be with a woman that and this is such a dilemma to me, and this I struggle with it constantly. You and your lady sound pretty similar. There's a lot lining up there, whatever. Could you be with a woman, or rather, do you think sometimes should you, not meaning in this specific relationship, just as a general concept, be with the person that's very different from you? Because I struggle with that all the time. A lot of the time I say, I need somebody who's a little curmudgeon-y, who when I say that guy in the coffee shop was a fucking asshole, that she goes, I know, right? And then the other half of the time I go, no, that's not what I need. I need the person that goes, Joe, stop getting upset about the guy in the coffee shop. Who cares? Right. And I often wonder which is the better thing, and if I've picked the wrong person many times in my life. And I wonder if that's got something to do with it, if I'm going for too similar or too...
Well, the thing
whatever.
is, I think it's the question is inherently difficult to answer because of the fact that you want opposites on certain things, and then you want the same on other things. And because, like, in a personality is like, you know, 1,000 different elements, you want certain elements to be opposed.
Right.
And I find like, I think in my relationship now, she's like, I'm very much like super loosey-goosey when it comes to like worrying about stuff, and she's worries about stuff a little bit. And it's actually good but the two of us, like, I balance out her anxiety, and she actually makes sure we don't like leave the dog underwater.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like that's sort of good. So it's you have to find the opposites of the things that you need help on, but you don't want opposites on everything because then it's miserable.
Sure.
Then you're constantly being like, I really don't want to do this.
Sure.
I don't want to do this. Fine, I'll do it for you. You know?
So it's really like to simplify it, I guess in a way, it really is like the best case coworker scenario. Hey, you and me work for this company. We're a team at this company. We get it, but you do this and I do that.
Yeah.
And that's what makes us a good team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where it's almost like all the mundane stuff you want to be the same. Like, you like to wake up at this time and I like to wake up at this time. Like all the bullshit. Like, I really like to stay home on Sundays. Like those are things that are like nice to have matched up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We both like to go to this pancake place on Saturday morning. We don't have to argue about where to get breakfast.
We both like drinking. Like those are the things you want to.
We like screaming in the street.
I had a 13-year relationship and she never drank.
And were you a big drinker during that period?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then after we broke up, she started drinking. And I was like, well, this would have been nice if you did it. And she said, I felt like I could never drink because I always had to look out for you. And I was like, what? And I was like, at that time, I was usually pretty much under control. I mean, I was crazy, but I could definitely get myself home.
By the way, not only have you expressed being a little sad that you've always been monogamous during this podcast, I now am sad that you've always been monogamous because you clearly have this dark, wild side that I would like to explore on just a night on the town with you.
Oh yeah, we should go out
and
sometime.
see where it goes. Yeah, I mean it's so tough for me because the hardest thing with this whole marriage thing or just monogamy thing. I've been saying this recently a lot. I'm 36. Have I gone too far? Have I gone so far down the path of independent living?
No.
That I can't. No, don't get me wrong. I've had girlfriends.
Yeah.
But my longest relationship was like 8 months.
Okay.
My average relationship is 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
And everything else has been just dating
Yeah.
a lot. So like, I do worry about that. I'm like, can you get so set in your ways? I have a decent sized apartment here. I'm like, I could have somebody live with me here. But then I go, wait a minute, but then they have to bring all their stuff in here. And I'm like, that's a terrible thought. That's selfish. And then I'm like, well, it's not selfish. It's just, you're not ready yet.
No. It's just that you're not. Because when you meet the right person, you'll be like, I can't wait for them for our stuff to mingle. I can't wait to see their stuff with my stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like when it's
I don't, because I've never felt that in my life.
Yeah.
So that's the feeling.
That's the feeling.
Can't wait for our stuff to mingle.
Yeah. Can't wait for our fucking socks to be in the fucking dryer together.
Hope it all works
Same
out.
time.
I gotcha.
Mixing it up.
I
mean, I think that's the weird thing about this. You can think about it all you want. And until that moment happens where you're just like, oh, this is it. Oh, wow, this is it. It's like all of that. You know what the weird thing is? I don't know. I like hearing about theories and doing no follow-up with them and then just talking about them all the time.
Yeah.
This whole theory that like we make all of our decisions based on emotions on an unconscious level, and then really our conscious mind is just there to justify to ourselves why we're deciding to do that. But our decisions are already made. And so it is really true with other people in that regard. If it's right, you make up anything you want to make it seem right. And if it's wrong, you'll make up anything to make it wrong.
Right. Well, I have been in situations where it's wrong, and I have done that.
Yeah.
And that's a very frightening place to be in. I dated a girl years ago that was certifiable. I mean, she was crazy.
Let's talk about crazy girlfriends, because I had one too.
Well, I mean, the further we got in, and this was when I started to realize, started to realize and understand. I was young. I was 22. But it was the first time I had that realization of like, oh my God, this is how people end up in crazy marriages.
Yeah.
This is how horrible, violent things eventually happen, because two people just keep going down the road and then it blows up in the worst way possible.
Oh, yeah.
And not that I had violent thoughts. I just started to get like, that's how you can end up there, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Because the farther...
That's the way this woman ends up taking a gun out of a vagina and sticking it in her boyfriend's mouth.
Yes. Well, that
just happened. That's happened in the news. I don't know when this is going to come
Oh,
out.
I thought you meant to you. I was like,
Oh,
Jesus.
no. Oh, no. That was poor Mick McCarthy's ex-wife just did that.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
To him?
No, to her current boyfriend.
Oh, my God. Now I know where all those creepy books came from.
Boom.
Jesus. Why is this guy writing about people eating baby brains? Oh.
That's the kind of ladies he gets with.
What happened was I went down this road with this girl and we were dating, and the further down the road we got, the crazier it got, the more crazy she would reveal. And you get to a point where you're like, I don't want to bail out of this now, because if I do, it's wasted time. I just wasted months with this girl. I can fix this. And it literally becomes like I Am Legend, where the vampires are descending on your house. You're the last man alive, and you're like, I can fix all of you. I can do it. And you're like, no, you can't, dude. Evacuate.
I know. Get the
out of
fuck
here.
out of there.
Yeah. So it's like, it's a frightening thing. It's a frightening thing when you get into that situation.
I had it happen the other way, where it was she was crazy, and I kind of knew she was crazy, but I was just super in love with her. And then she started changing me.
Right.
Like, I started becoming more crazy.
Right.
And it was like dangerous. Like, that was 2 years of my life. And I honestly am still mad that those 2 years have been lost. Like,
It's tough.
I honestly think of them as being lost.
But don't think of it as being lost. Think of it as
I had crazy experiences. Crazy good experiences and crazy bad experiences.
And dude, talk about, like, that's boot camp, man. That's 2 years. You learn something.
Oh, yeah, and I got 1,000 stories from it.
Yeah, I mean, that's really great. I think
Yeah.
that's really great, and I think you need to go through that because, to bring it all full circle back to this, when we talked in the beginning about that legal document that you signed.
Yeah.
Now you know not to sign the legal document with somebody like that.
Right, exactly.
Had you not gone through that 2 years in your sort of rookie phase or whatever?
Yeah.
Who knows, dude? You could be here now not knowing what that's all about, end up there, and then get married, and then you're really in deep
scared.
shit.
Just so happy she never got pregnant. That would have been a nightmare.
But nightmare.
To have a child with someone, that's why I ended it, because I imagined she was doing something super insane, and I was like, what if you had my baby? Like, what if you were holding my baby right now when you were saying that shit to me?
Right.
Oh my God, I gotta get out of this.
What do you do?
It was over right then.
Yeah. And then, calling back to the thing about New York, one of you has to sue the other.
Yeah.
There's business now that has to get involved with this. You can't just leave. That's why I say we're grown-ups.
Yeah.
If I say that's my wife and she says I'm her husband, then we're husband and wife. Who has to declare that?
Seems
God?
like a more mature thing to do.
Absolutely.
But then when you put it forth to, I'm worried about having this conversation. I do think it's not going to go my way.
You mean if your girlfriend hears this?
No, I mean, because I already brought this up with her. I mean, this is a conversation that we have to have before we figure out what we're going to do. And we have to come to an agreement on, and she's already said, like, no, I want to get really married. And I'm just like, yeah, but think about it, man. Think about my way. It's like, and I just can't imagine, like, right now I'm not imagining a situation where I win in this. Where, like, my viewpoint wins, I mean, we both win. Well, we're fucking, if we get married, but.
I don't quite understand, and we already kind of went through this terrain, but it's like, I just really, I don't understand, other than the fanfare of the ceremony and all that stuff, and the celebration and the party and the spectacle, really, to show everybody we're doing this. This is a sign of our love. Once you get past all that, I don't see any point to marriage. Why not just stay boyfriend, girlfriend? Why not just, we live together, we're happy, it works, we're fine.
Yeah.
You could be a perpetual bachelor for the rest of your life, and you could have your ultimate wingman / roommate who's also a perpetual bachelor. There's no need to say to that guy, let's sign a business agreement that we work as a team. You just work as a team. It works.
And also, once you have the have you ever noticed this, where it's like when people are like, we've been making this beer together for a few years now, and everybody likes this beer. Hey, you know what? Let's go and let's make a corporation out of this, make it legal, and start doing this. And then they do it, and then it's just like, boom. Within 6 months, just the pressure of this outside thing being placed upon what was a perfectly good working relationship
Absolutely.
makes it implode.
Absolutely. And that's a great point. And in closing, I think this is a nice summation of everything we've talked about. If you want to get married and you love the other person, then be with the other person. And that's it. That should be good enough. And if you don't want to do it that way, that's fine. If you believe in marriage as an institution, that's fine too. But just think about this. They say business and pleasure never mix. So when you're going to take the person you love more than anything on God's green earth, why the fuck do you want to introduce a business contract into that relationship? It's not a beer company. It's a loving friendship that should not be spoiled with lawyers and contracts. I think that's fair.
Yes.
All right. Kurt,
Joe,
thank you. You're wonderful.
you.
Plug something.
Just listen to my podcast, The K-Hole. It's on The Nerdist. And it's a rotating format. We got different formats every week. One of them, I blindfold people and I throw them in my car and take them somewhere they've never been. And then they have to figure out how to get home.
Yes.
So go fucking listen to that.
Listen to Kurt's podcast. I did an episode recently and we had a really great time. It's a great podcast. You're a smart guy. You're hilarious. And you're a great conversationalist. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Joe.